Yeah, take it away.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Christmas has always been a special time for me. So, first of all, Merry Christmas. Now, the special time to be with family and friends. Many people do not celebrate Christmas, but it's an important season for me. And let me tell you why. First of all, I'm going to sit back, have a cup of hot chocolate, and I'm going to get into the festive mood. And there we go. Now, we're at Christmas time. Now, I grew up, as mentioned earlier, in the northeast part of Portland. It's a neighborhood called Hollywood, called that way because a lot of holly trees grow in the area. But it's a nice, small shopping area, not too far from the house where I lived on 53rd Street. Now, my very first Christmases, I recall, I was probably maybe 2 or 3 at the time, waking up Christmas morning and seeing the tree decorated and the stockings were hung by the chimney with care and lots of gifts and presents were under the tree. It was a colorfully lit tree. It was so great. 2 or 3 years old, everything looked great. Now, my dad was a firm believer in not having the tree fully decorated until very close to Christmas Day, and the presents did not go out under the tree until after midnight mass on Christmas. Now, I have 2 older brothers. 2 brothers and 2 sisters. And as a toddler, these people always seemed to be so important to me. They were so much bigger than I am. You can imagine as a 2-year-old looking at a 4-year-old, 6-year-old and say,
Oh my gosh, do you remember when we had that Christmas tree and all those stockings were hung up? I love this
I'd like to
story.
hear about your Christmas tree, but maybe we can talk
amazing.
about that later. You think we can do that? Okay, that's great to hear about other people's traditions. But let's go into what we're talking about here, where as I grew older and I was now in grade school, I learned something very important. I was expected to give my 2 brothers and my 2 sisters gifts as well as to my parents. What to give them? Oh, I was really hard put on that. So in 1st and 2nd grade, I was old enough to go to the Hollywood area by myself. And there I would look for things at the toy department in Rogers Department Store, which was down the street from the Fred Meyers, which also had a toy section. Oh, it's so great. What to get my sister, who's 8 years older than I am, I didn't know. Well, I thought she would love to have this neat red little car. It was a racing car. It was so neat. I wanted to have it so bad.
Why do you want a little red car? It's not a very nice thing to get your sister.
Well, you're right. Sometimes we get into situations that may not be nice, but I'm glad you brought that up because we got to think about giving gifts that are nice. And it's nice for us, but for somebody else. So you're doing a good job of, yes. What can I help you with?
Oh.
Oh, I see. You want to carry on your own conversation. Well, that's great. Now, maybe you can do that, but let's wait till after the meeting so you can get in and talk to your friends. Now, when I was in first grade, I mentioned first grade, and I looked up to them. Now, I want to mention also when I was in the younger years, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, particularly 1st and 2nd, the Hollywood Booster Club down in the Hollywood shopping district would put up a manger scene, which they closed off the street. They put out straw, grass, brought in animals, goats and horses and lambs, and they had a manger scene. And behind that was a stage which Santa Claus would sit, and there was a line to go up the steps and sit on Santa's lap, or at least sit near Santa. Oh, that was so great. Now, I was so excited to do that. I went ahead and made up a list of things I wanted to have, and I'd be walking by the animals. One time I wasn't too careful, and I had my list over the fence, and a goat started eating it. I thought, oh no, what am I going to tell Santa now? I don't know what to tell Santa what I wanted. Well, these are things I have memories of when I was a kid, going into the Hollywood area and seeing that stage set up and seeing Santa Claus, going up and talking to Santa Claus. That was intimidating. Writing a letter to Santa was really not so bad. And I found out later in life that really writing letters to Santa was really just telling my mom and dad what I wanted to have for Christmas. I thought they really went to the North Pole because I addressed the envelope, North Pole, put a stamp on it. And I thought saw my mom mail them.
Yeah, Leo, I can tell you about my writing of to Santa too. Uh, one time I remember when I was 5 years old, we went up to see Santa,
Oh, you know,
and
this
I was
is great to hear about other people's story. This is so wonderful that you're getting into the fact that we're talking about Santa and talking about someone else. Um, Great to hear that you had that same experience I did too. I'm sure a lot of you out there have that same idea where you work with Santa Claus or got to go see Santa. And it was still very special to me. Now, I still go down to the Hollywood. I live over in Washougal now. We don't have Santa Claus that we can go to, but I get over to Portland once in a while and I see the area where they used to have the Santa Claus. That was such good memories. Now, when I got older, I was able to go out and actually buy my own gifts. Now, I'm talking about late grade school, perhaps even high school, walking the streets outside the Fred Meyer store. Fred Meyer is a department store that has all sorts of things, clothing, food, toys, particularly toys. That was my favorite. And I would walk by the store just on the sidewalk. People would say, "Merry Christmas." And I would say, "Merry Christmas." I didn't know these people. It was just something that was in the air. Merry Christmas. It was so nice to hear and see that those things happening. And so today, that is one of the things I miss. I don't know how it is in your neighborhood, but over here, if you walk into a store and someone says Merry Christmas, it's probably the one out in the doorstep that's ringing the bell that's wanting to put money into the Salvation Army pot. And that person says Merry Christmas. Once in a great while, someone will say Merry Christmas to me. Now, let's get back to when I was 3 or 4, not 3 or 4, but third or fourth grade. And I would go to stores and I see such neat things. Oh, what to buy people. I already told you about the great car I got from my sister who was 8 years older than I am. What she did with that car, I'm not sure. I'm sure she didn't play with it. She probably would rather have had a doll. Okay, but we like to have a Merry Christmas. Now, the checkout clerk, though, I have to say, would oftentimes say Merry Christmas. And what was really neat, I had a gift that obviously is for my mom. Or at least maybe I said that. I said, "Your mom will love that gift." Now, you don't hear that so much when you go to the stores today. I've never heard it. You go up to the clerk, you pay for it, and you leave. And nobody says, maybe you're lucky they might say Merry Christmas. They might say something to acknowledge that it's a holiday. Now,
Leo, I find that hard to believe. Have you checked the statistics on the amount of people that will wish you a Merry Christmas? Wherever I
oh,
go,
you got a good point there. The statistics, that's such an interesting concept. No, you're right. I have not looked at the statistics. It's all in my brain. I know what's out there. I know what's going on. And I don't feel that people are saying Merry Christmas as much as they used to. In fact, at all. At best, we get happy holidays. And I always wonder to myself, okay, I celebrate Christmas. Is that the holiday you're talking about? Well, say Merry Christmas. Now, I know a lot of people do not celebrate Christmas these days, I suppose. I can't imagine who wouldn't celebrate Christmas, but there must be people who don't. But I love hearing the words Merry Christmas because it focuses you on a specific action that happens in this time of year. Now, we have our tree lit. I got the one behind me that's lit up, and at home, when I was growing up, Mom always had decorations up around the house. We put our cards up around the edge of the ceiling. We had places to put Christmas cards that we get, and it was a great joy to receive Christmas cards. Now, getting to Christmas itself, we had the Christmas tree, Christmas morning. Now, Christmas morning was a time you get up, and after we had things ready to go, under the tree were what looked like piles of Christmas gifts. Now, these gifts would then be distributed, usually by the youngest person in the family, my younger brother, Dave. Now, Dave brought the presents to each person in the family and set it down before them. And then we'd set it on the floor, and it was like 1, 2, 3. And the next 10 minutes, you couldn't be a better way to describe than a tornado that had been released in our house. Paper everywhere. It seemed like gifts were flying around, not flying, but moving around, people grabbing this. It was just a pleasant chaotic. It was piquant. It was something that would be just a great way to enjoy Christmas, to be happy. And I remember that so much as a kid. that wild action of grabbing the gift, tearing off the paper, and perhaps throwing the paper, opening it up, and, look what I got. Or, oh, I got another shirt. Oh, okay. Oh, that was great. So as we got older, Christmases were not as noisy. Now we're more selective. In our family, where personal family, when we get a gift, each person opens one gift at a time. No chaotic. I kind of miss that chaotic stuff, but my wife Janet likes to have things nice and orderly, and I can see the pleasantness in doing it that way. Then we have time to talk instead of the wild mess. I talked about my early grade school and high school years about Merry Christmas, of how memorable they are. Let's fast forward to today. And I mentioned earlier about not being able to hear the words Merry Christmas as much as I'd like, but I still enjoy Christmas. I put up a Christmas tree. I light up the decks around the house with lights, colored lights, so you can see them at night. And we hang our cards on red ribbons on the wall so it looks decorative, it looks pretty. Now I still shop for Christmas gifts, but mostly it's online now. So I don't hear the clerk saying Merry Christmas like I would like to hear, because the computer doesn't talk back to me that way. That may be something somebody could do when you order a gift. It says Merry Christmas. Now, not going out the stores, I do get their occasion, and I do on occasion hear one person saying Merry Christmas, other than the bell ringer for the Salvation Army. But it gives me time when I hear the words Merry Christmas to pause and reflect on the important things in my life: gratitude, giving, hope. For me, this is still a very joyous time of year. And with the words I'm going to say now, I'd like to share with you the joy with all the people you know, and I know that this is a very special season. So I close this speech with the famous words that make this a joyous season. Merry Christmas.